sitting here with Conner Eisenmenger. He's going to be the next guest on the Vermillion series, the Music Laboratory series at Vermillion on Thursday, May 19th. And we're here to talk about what he's going to do and some things he has done and whatever else comes up. So, welcome, Conner.
Howdy.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Yeah,
hello, everyone.
So, I guess let's start with what you're going to do at Vermillion. Let's just get right to it. So, the name of the project is Think Tank.
Right.
And what's it about?
So, Think Tank is just kind of a space for experimentation within certain compositional limitations. Like the instrumentation I'm most comfortable with is kind of a quintet setting. A lot of the music is jazz informed, and we're going to be playing a series of works that's ended up with a title, like a name of it. So this series of compositions is called Synchronicities, because it came out of some time like really early in the pandemic when I was writing a whole bunch kind of on myself or on my own, and kind of plays on some of the themes of that time and the headspace that we were all in the early pandemic stage. And it comes from, in the field of education, there was a lot of discussions about instruction being either synchronous or asynchronous.
Yes.
And I always thought that word just rolled off of everyone's mouths really uncomfortably at the beginning of the pandemic. And there was lots of, complications that went with scheduling synchronous things, and that was always our goal, was to be synchronous. And so there's all these, everything that was synchronous was not without its eccentricities, and then kind of putting those two together.
So, synchronicities.
Yeah.
Synchronicities. That is not easy to say.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So you've done this before. Where did you present this?
So this has existed kind of appropriately online at first. So the very first time that any of this music was ever played was at the International Tuba Euphonium Association conference. This was in like May or March of 2021 was the first time this was fully realized.
Okay, in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
like shortly after the vaccines came out.
That conference was totally virtual. It was all online.
Okay.
And so we had to send in pre-recorded tapes, and so that was kind of where it came from. So it had a very sluggish, robotic sort of beginning, which was not fun to do, but it was worth it because then that kind of created momentum to engage and book other live projects. And so the deal with myself was, all right, I'm going to sit down and do the work to figure out this writing, these ideas that I have, and flesh them out and play for these virtual conferences, and then leverage that to kind of like as a promise to the band members of like, we will play as real life humans again, because at that point we really didn't know what that was going to look like or when it was going to be.
Right.
But so the music.
But now that you're live, who's going to be playing this?
So the band for the Seattle chapter of this group is going to be myself, Steve Tressler on tenor saxophone, Marina Albero on piano, Alex Deering on bass, and then Rocky Martin on drum set.
You've been here. You came from Chicago before Seattle, and you've been here a year now. Is that right? Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that I, really wanted to do when I came out here to Seattle was be sort of a self-starting person that had musical things to give to the scene, as opposed to, hey, I'm some jerk. How about some gigs for me? So that was something, and I've always liked writing, and I've had this group play in Chicago before, but it wasn't really, like, as far as like composing chops, they weren't where I needed them to be, or they didn't feel like they matched up with other parts of my life. That was something that I think I kind of, it's not that I ignored it while I was in school, it was that, particularly at North Texas, they're very, very good at celebrating the things you're already really, really good at. And so I was really, really good at sitting in the second trombone chair in a band and playing solos. And so a lot of my energy and lessons and otherwise was towards, hey, let's make sure that this improvisation sounds really, really good consistently. Let's explore that. Let's, really beef up those chops, which is a good thing to do. But at the same time, maybe didn't prioritize like some arranging courses, and maybe
Interesting.
Had a little.
So was that an effect of the pandemic that you kind of reevaluated and started composing more? Is that
Yes,
what I'm hearing?
definitely. I was like, for as much time as I spend like getting my horn out and improvising and saying like, oh, play the horn every day, all that sort of stuff you say to students, it was like I was kind of, I saw my identity as a writer. It's like that's just as much as important as any other, facet of musicality. But was I giving that the same like respect and time as the other stuff?
Oh, interesting. How did you approach working on composition during this time?
Totally wild experimentation. Just had
I love it.
no real plan because I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what like a successful version, like a well-adjusted human. I was like, what do they do if they're good at composing? I was like, I guess they write every day. And so the expression that I remember someone a lot smarter than me saying, Anna Jalkus, she was at UNT with me, and she now teaches voice at the Royal Academy of Music in Sweden. So she's super cool. She said to let the water run. So it's like when you get to a new apartment, especially if you live in somewhere in Chicago that's stinky and the water's gross, you turn on the water and you just let it go. And so I did that. And being a teacher, we now have a time timer, one of those little clocks that has like the red circle for an hour.
Okay.
And so I set up like, at first it was like 20 minutes or half hour or whatever I had. And I would write these like just stream of consciousness nonsense songs, whether it be in GarageBand or Finale or wherever, and just not let myself stop writing like thematic material. And then once I had like a few weeks of that, and I had like the mental wherewithal to sit back and comb through it, I would try to find like things that I liked, things that I recognized as like viable pieces of music, and kind of piecemeal it together from there.
So you set the timer and you had to go that long.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We both play slide trombone and valve trombone.
Right.
And what's your relationship to both of those instruments?
Yeah.
History?
Happy to talk about that. So probably like a lot of trombone players, I didn't start on trombone. That was not like my very, very first choice at the instrument petting zoo when I was a small kid. I really wanted to play saxophone, but I showed up after taking a summer of lessons between 4th and 5th grade on alto saxophone. Showed up to the first day. There were way too many of us, and the band director just randomly picked a few of us and said, no, you're going somewhere else. And so I got stuck on trumpet. I was horrible at trumpet. It was bad. I didn't understand it. And I was second to last chair in the 6th grade band. And the only reason I wasn't last was because the other guy kept putting stuff in his horn, and it wouldn't make sound all the time, like crayons. And
Wait, so intentionally trying to sabotage his own instrument? He just didn't know.
I think he just not trying to sabotage, but definitely intentionally jamming things in there for just like the recreation of jamming things into other things.
Not like creating mutes or anything,
No.
like I wonder what this sounds like if
Just
I put...
like 6th grade brain, just like looks at crayons, just like that fits. Didn't think about like what that's gonna do for like, you have to play that now. It's like, oh, I do?
Or you have to clean it out or
Yes.
whatever. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, got it.
So there was that. And I remember he hadn't done it yet, but eventually that student was bugging another student was bugging him, so this wasn't really his fault. And so he turned really quickly to say, like, would you stop it? And the bell of the trumpet whacked that other student on the tooth and broke it. Chipped tooth. So anyway, I got out there lucky, so that would have been me. And I said, I want to go back and play baritone with my friend Alan in the back row. I really just wanted to sit in the back row and goof off. And my band director told me the biggest band director lie that any band director's ever said. He said, no, you can't play baritone, your arms are too long.
What?
He was just trying to say, oh, play the trombone, big long arms. I still can like barely reach 7th position, so that was a lie. I couldn't reach 7th position at the time, so...
That's hilarious.
Whatever. It was enough. I was like, sure, I'll play trombone, whatever. So then I went through school, like middle school, high school, college, and I always like knew about the valve system because I had kind of like internalized that already. And I always thought about the slide positions like as they relate to like the valve combinations.
Of course you did, because you started on trumpet.
Yeah. So it was always around. It was just never like a practice. And then we were fortunate enough to be gifted a valve trombone by a family friend while we were living in Chicago. And so I figured I have the skills for this, and there's no real reason to, ignore this whole like half of a potential instrument. Like, it has, validity in history as well. So it's not even really like a double. It's just like, well, let's just play this too. You know, like you're allowed to be a slide trombonist and a valve trombonist, as you know. And so
sometimes I have to remind people.
Right. See, we're preaching to the choir here. So yeah, that was another thing that I had it. I never really like brought it out in Chicago, and then everything shut down, and I had all this time to practice. And I was like, you know what? I'm a valve trombone player. Like, we're doing this. And so
cool.
It wasn't. I feel like to call it a COVID project kind of makes it feel like it was like a fad, sort of like, you know, like thing to put together. It was more like a realization of like, no, like this is a real thing that you're allowed to make music on, and like we do have the skills. Like, let's make the music and make that happen.
So, once again, this is Conner Eisenmenger. He's going to be the guest at the Music Laboratory at Vermillion on Thursday, May 19th, along with Tightrope and Scrambler. Tightrope is going to be with Kate Olson and Eric Eagle. Looking forward to that. Lots of electronics and loops and stuff with that. And then also Scrambler, which is what I call the house band at Vermillion. And hopefully we'll have Conner conducting some pieces, as well as Peter Tracy, and always a good musical mess. So come check it out. Woohoo! Thanks for watching.